Oh yes, Luke, that's very true, Luke. Good stuff, that's good stuff. Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. Doing some reading on my favourite punk rock band, 5 Seconds of Summer. Australian lads they are. Great stuff. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of album number 3, Youngblood by the Australian pop rock band 5 Seconds of Summer. Now this is their first album in about 3 years, since 2015's Sounds Good Feels Good, and I was honestly a bit surprised at how long they took. Now they have a young, rabid fan base that is always hungry for new material, but if they were taking their time to kind of hone their craft, maybe do something a little bit different, or just give themselves a break, then I can totally respect that. While this new album, Youngblood, is definitely of the pop rock variety, I would say that it's a little bit more mature, as they definitely indicated with their lead single, Want You Back. In the past, they'd had pop rock and pop punk as the genre tag that was applied to them, and I never really truly felt like they were deserving of the pop punk label, but I feel like this new album is kind of shedding of that. Now in the past, I've never been head over heels for Five Sauce, but I do feel like maybe I've been a little bit more understanding of them than some critics. It's not that I'm necessarily coming down on anyone who doesn't get into them, that's your prerogative, that's totally fine, but I just find them to be kind of inoffensive. They definitely draw other influences, and it's sometimes a little bit too blatant, but when they're actually carving out their own lane, which isn't all that often, but when they hit that sweet spot, then they can have some really fun songs. Now, on this new record, are we gonna get any certified jams like that? Well, yes and no, but yes, overall I would say, because I feel like there's some fun to be had on this record. As you dig into this album and maybe actually give it a chance, I think that you will come to see that there's some fun songs here. You've got everything from Valentine, a fun song that kind of talks about tossing out some old traditions and making way for the new, and then something that's a little bit more emotive, like The Ghost of You, which, no, isn't a My Chemical Romance cover, it's just more of a sad song about somebody being lost to suicide. Those two themes that I just tossed out there are very different from each other. I understand that, but it's all about the contrast. I don't think this is a great album, but I do think that it's kind of a step in the right direction if Five Sauce want to continue their career past the success that they really had from touring with 1D, and now that One Direction are gone, there was a little bit of me, just a little bit of suspiciousness, like, are 5 Seconds of Summer gonna break up? Like, is this over now because it was taking a while? But they released the lead single, Want You Back, and then that was that. Now, that lead single was actually not that great, to be honest. In my books, I found it a bit forgettable, but in the context of the album, it's fine, it's kind of vibey, it has a nice little bass and guitar line on it, and it's not like the band have totally put down their instruments by any means. I mean, definitely the second half of this record is a little bit too reliant on the fact that they have programming, some skittering drum beats or some programmed loops. In the first half, though, I feel like it stands pretty tall, and the band are actually doing their thing, just with more 80s influences. If you take the time to look into the songwriters and producers and just the weird variety and list that they have down there, you'd be surprised that they were able to pull off such a cohesive record. That's by no means always good. This is definitely a top heavy front-loaded album that starts off with 6 pretty good songs at least, and then with If Walls Could Talk, it just kind of starts to implode a little bit and go a little bit too all over the place. They start relying on programming, some beat-driven stuff, and some kind of weird vocal things. And if you don't know a lot about 5 Seconds of Summer, all of the boys in this group sing. I guess I should be saying men, and that is Callum Hood, Michael Clifford, Luke Hemmings, and also Ashton Irwin. Look at that. I wasn't even looking and I got it. All of the guys in the group sing, and often they rely on gang vocals to do choruses where at least 3 of them will sing, or maybe on a bridge or a pre-chorus or something like that. So I was interested to see what songwriters and what producers would bring this to life. And unfortunately, I feel like they kind of pushed Luke Hemmings to really just be the front and center star. He sings the majority of these tunes and at least carries the chorus or the majority of the verses, and I feel like Ashton and Michael kind of got left in the dust. I understand why Ashton doesn't sing as much, but I felt like Michael is probably the most underrated vocalist in the band. With the outside co-writers, we've got everybody from Jake Sinclair and yes, Rivers Cuomo, the frontman of Weezer, to Justin Tranter, Teddy Geiger, and unfortunately when you get Justin, you often get his songwriting partner, Julia Michaels, and oh boy, that's If Walls Could Talk, and that's one of the worst songs here. While their new sounds often do work out for them, I feel like a lot of these songs just tried too many production tricks and tried to be a little bit too clean and too friendly, or try too many things within one song. Fortunately, we don't really have that problem all that often in the first 6 tracks, so we'll start off positive. We'll start off nice and talk about some of these songs that I really do enjoy. Now we'll start with Valentine, which is a very interesting key-driven song that has some great vocals on it. I like Michael's part to the song, which is really great, and fans have been asking me and begging me to talk about this song ever since they played it live at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Now when they played this track live, I didn't catch the performance, but I did see it afterwards, like in recent weeks actually, and I found it to be pretty solid. It sounds like they rock out a little bit more live, but I still like the studio recording here. In fact, the chorus sounds great, kind of playful, a little bit sly, and the bass line and the guitar work in the background as well are great. It's just a fun pop rock song that kind of puts a twist on the whole perspective of Valentine's Day, and the fact that maybe we should be celebrating our lover like every day of the year. Lie to Me is also a ton of fun. In fact, they said they wanted to write a song that was inspired by the Police, Every Breath You Take, and they totally nailed the inspiration here if you ask me. It's a great song that has a great hook to it, but it also has a lot of nuance and finesse to the details. I was really surprised with the success of Youngblood, the title track on this album, and the opening cut here. It's been huge in their home country of Australia, topping the charts, hitting #1, and that came as a surprise to me because not even the leadoff single, Want You Back, did well. I mean, it hit number 32, which is probably nothing to scoff at over there, but still, hitting #1 with the second single? That's crazy. It must have gotten some weird exposure or something, but it's a good track. It has a rumbling bass line to it that really can get you amped up. It's a lot of fun, and there's also some nice guitar playing that's kind of skilled in the background from Michael, especially during the chorus. It's a little bit shifty. It's different from what they've done in the past. It's not so much reliant on just chords and chugging. It's a little bit all over the map, and I like that. Youngblood does a great job at getting inside your head with those gang vocals. I think that those were utilized great on the chorus and the hook of that one. It's something that kind of gets earwormy, and the lead single, Want You Back, definitely attempted to do that, but I just feel like it maybe was more of a cheap thrill, whereas Youngblood actually backs it up. Twinkling keys and driving guitars definitely come front and center on Talk Fast, another very enjoyable 80s influenced jam that I am liking a whole lot, and then on Moving Along directly after that, we get some big drums from Ashton on this thing. I mean, it's definitely catchy, and the whole thinking about your lines lately is something that is smooth, has some detail to it, and sounds just fine. Kind of charming in an odd way. Not something that I would typically be drawn to, but I'm okay with this, and it's definitely won me over with repeated listens. But those drum fills that he does it not sound maybe a little bit cartoony, like when a cartoon character is about to run in those old cartoons from back in the day? See, now you'll never unhear it. Unfortunately, we kinda hit a turning point with If Walls Could Talk, which is very generic and cheesy lyrically, kinda cheap if you ask me. Oh, if these walls could talk, then we would never be the same, and everything would change, and everything would come crashing down. And that just sounds weird to me. I mean, is that not just me, or does that kinda give off a weird vibe? It would be like, oh, I'm saying all of these terrible things inside my studio. I hope that the walls can't talk and get me in trouble. Woke Up in Japan does a really poor job at doing a mishmash of like a trap-leaning beat almost, like some rolling 808s and hi-hats on that one, and the drum department and percussion, and then trying to stir that in with a little bit of like a sly, sexy type vibe, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. It just feels like waking up drunk and you don't know where anything is. Why Won't You Love Me honestly feels a little bit desperate and pathetic. It seems like something that might have appeared on their first album, not their third, especially in the lyrical department. It's probably among the worst here. And then we've got something like Better Man, track number 8, that just kind of face plants for me because it's yet another muted guitar chord open song that never progresses past that and tries to get you to feel something, but it's like, I've already heard this not only lyrically, but this song. They're beating it into the ground in the pop market. I'm on the fence with Empty Wallets, which tries to be kind of a party celebration type song where they're like, hey, who cares if we don't have anything? We've still got love. And it ends up almost sounding like a stripper's anthem because it sounds like Spend It All on You. It's like I could just imagine Five Sauce at the club throwing the bills Everywhere. No, maybe I shouldn't be picturing that. If you ask me, there's kind of a real pacing issue going on, especially in the second half of Youngblood, because you've got like Empty Wallets, for example, and that's kind of upbeat and fun, and before that you've got the trying to be moody Woke Up in Japan, and then you have the emotional and pretty compelling, if you ask me, pretty sincere stuff on The Ghost of You, and it's just like all out of sync. And the first 6 songs, they felt like they fit together, and the second 7, they don't feel that way at all. Slammed in the middle of it all, we have More, a song that actually is pretty good by its own rights. I mean, it's more of a rocker, a little bit more of a searing burn to that one, and I like the torch that's lit there. It seems like they actually have some energy, and it seems like a relationship has been the catalyst for the start of this song and the writing process, and maybe a relationship that's ended, and they're talking about the things that they used to want more, and then it has a loud guitar and bass that becomes very prominent and just buzzes around, especially in the hook and kind of the drop on this one, but still, it works out. It's just that it's kind of weirdly juxtaposed in between the muted guitar chord song and then Why Won't You Love Me? To sum everything up, I would say this is a pretty good album. It starts off strong. There's some questionable moments, sure, especially in the lyrical department, but if you can get past that, it's enjoyable stuff. And then there's a few songs stuffed in the second half, like More that I already talked about, and then The Ghost of You that do sound pretty good, and I would have to rate this album a 3.5 out of 5, a light 3.5, just because I do believe this to be the best 5 Seconds of Summer release to date. Don't forget to drop a like on the video while you're here, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future uploads. If you're able to support me on Patreon, it would be greatly appreciated. Top link down below, or else the annotation in the corner. If you want to see another 5 sauce review, tap right here, or another recent video I did right over here. Socials in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.